Namastu Mami Vishapatayini. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
The summary, so that because we've seen quite a bit, so when I do the summary, hopefully it will give you an idea as to how your mind has to move when you take in so much input, because there are lots and lots of verses which are saying many things, and it seems as though it's, where are the connections and what. So I'm making the connections, but your mind has to make the connections. Okay, so that Atma Bodha, I'll do it from the beginning. So I have a big job of connecting everything that we have seen so far. But I'll do it fast and no questions during this time, because this is just a repetition of what we have already done. Okay. That means all these verses create one whole big picture of reality and refine the picture of reality, and what piece falls where you have to figure out, otherwise it seems all scattered all over the place. So Atma Bodha starts with saying that this text is for Mumukshu. Who is a Mumukshu? Who has figured out that my normal pursuits don't give me what I'm searching for. Right? So what am I searching for is, like yesterday Swamiji said, actually I'm searching for my own true nature, Satchidananda. But I'm trying to recreate it at the level of body, mind and intellect, as he said. And I can never find it, but it's an innate desire that I have, so there must be a solution. But that solution doesn't lie in the way I look at it. So the solution is what? In pramana. Shastra as a pramana reveals that what you are searching for is really you, and already you. And what you then need to do is to remove ignorance. Okay? So this is the logic. Now, when you remove the ignorance, there is also a qualification, which is your mind has to be prepared. So you also have to get ready so that this pramana works. Okay? So that's the premise. Now, when you use the pramana, what do you discover? What you discover is you start your self-identity as this body, mind, senses. You start your identity here, and just first I will show you what is pramana talking about, and then I will show you how this book is taking you there. Okay? So what Shruti says, and this is why every text expresses it differently. So that is, once you understand the basic, and if you understand how each text approaches it differently, then you begin to see, oh my God, how brilliant is this vision. No matter where you start, it comes to the same thing. Okay? So what it says is that this given form itself is coming from knowledge and power, which has not only put together this form, but it has put together all the forms that exist in the past, present and future, which is knowledge and power called Ishvara. Then you can ask, before the manifestation, what was there? So what we say is, this is with reference to all the forms, right? Knowledge and power puts together all the forms, and right now it is in form of all these different forms. Next question is, where was this knowledge and what was there before this manifestation? So what did we say? All knowledge and all power was there, but in a potential form. This is called Maya. Then we come to the final truth of all knowledge and all power, which is Brahman, which is of the nature of Satchitananda. It is existence, it is awareness, and it is limitlessness. Now, how does the text show this, right? So what we start from here, and this is our perception. We see many forms. So what does Shruti do? Shruti as a pramana shows us these three realities which are otherwise not accessible to us, right? So we have to use the words in order to arrive at this. Okay? Now, how does the Shruti, Atma Bodha does it? It starts by showing there is a drik, drishya, viveka, a prakriya, where he says, all this is something which I objectify, and what do we come to as the final druk? The final druk, he takes you to existence and awareness, which is limitless. So he goes using drik, drishya, viveka, he takes you here. Okay? Then he asks the question, okay, you are this Satchidananda Atma, but how did these forms come about? We still haven't answered that question, right? How did they come about? They are drishya, but how did drishya jagat come about in the first place? So this is when he says that there is a cause. What kind of cause? That cause is not only efficient cause, but also material cause of the creation. Being the material cause, it pervades entire creation. Okay, so this is what it says. Now, that cause itself, it divides into the material cause itself is divided into two. One is what we call parinami upadana karana, and the second is vivarta upadana karana. So what does it mean? This is what he says is parinami upadana karana, because all knowledge and all power constantly has to bring about shifts in this universe because it's in a constant flux. So that means it has to rearrange the universe every second so that it is different from what it was 1 second ago, right? And through yugas, through centuries. So this is parinami upadana karana, but there is one more upadana karana which is the final, which is Brahman, which is without undergoing any change, it has what become as though this whole jagat. So this is what we call vivarta upadana karana. So this is changing, this is not changing. Then you can ask the question, how can a non-changing reality become all of this and also become this? So there has to be an intervening factor, which is that without undergoing any change, there is a potential to manifest. So this is where the whole thing of Maya came about. So do you understand? Either you can show it linearly like this, but how the Shruti, this is what we call the variety. Variety means you don't every time, suppose you show it only like this, it's boring. It sounds easy, it sounds very linear, it sounds kind of logical, but what happens is we begin to just repeat it without seeing all the nuances. So every Upanishad or every text shows you the same reality but in so many infinitely creative ways. So that is what you have to follow, and you have to say, oh my God, now when you look at it from this, it starts like that. When you look at it from this, it is same, it is all showing this but in so many different varieties. Now, how does the text proceed? The text proceeds by saying, asking one more question. Now it is all details, right? This is the basic framework. Then you have further details because life is not as simple as this. There are many intricacies. So what is the detail? Here you ask, what is this body, mind and senses? You little bit focus and then you come to what we call Sthula Sharira. What you see as a body, mind, sense complex is actually three things. Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira and Karana Sharira. How is this Sthula Sharira made? Sthula Sharira is made from, so that is further explaining how this knowledge and power kind of became this body and mind. There is a process. It's not just like that. So there are 5 elements. So it uses 5 element body. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi. So this body, the physical body that you see, is this all knowledge and all power manifests these 5 elements and they are put together in a certain way that it becomes Sthula Sharira. What is this Sukshma Sharira? All the subtle functions of your body. How did they come about? 5 elements but in their subtle form. This is how we saw how Akasha has one quality of carrying sound and your sense organ of ear picks up the sound. So this is what you see, that even your senses and the mind is the one which picks up the reporting of all the senses. So therefore all the 5 subtle elements are in the mind. So this is how you create a connection. What is Karana Sharira? Why does everybody have different physical and subtle body? So you have Karana Sharira, which is your own karmas, which is your unexperienced result of your own actions of the past, which gives you this Karana Sharira. Now, having said that, yet another idea is introduced by saying that this form is a form, but now what has happened is, what is the nature of the problem? It has become an upadhi. How has it become an upadhi? It as though for you covers the nature of Atma. Right? So a new concept was introduced called upadhi. And what is upahita? Brahman, it as though takes on the attribute of body, mind, sense complex. Therefore we don't recognize Brahman as Brahman is, and we think body and mind and senses are Brahman. Okay? So that is the other thing that we talked about. Then later on what we did is we looked a little bit more into this upadhi. How does it cover, how does this physical body, mind, sense covers the nature of Atma, as though, right? It as though gives its attribute here, and it therefore, this takes on the attribute and therefore it kind of appears as this, and we mistake it for this. I mean, this is mistaken for this. Okay? Now, so what yet another, so many different locus of error we have that is pointed out, right? So what is the model that is used to point out that this Sthula, Sukshma and Karana Sharira, with reference to our own error, we make 5 different kinds of error at different levels. What? Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya. This becomes upadhi, it as though covers the nature of Atma, because we take this form, which is a form, and we mistake it at all these different levels. I take myself to be the body, and body is nothing but modification of food. I take myself to be this organism which is alive, which is function of prana. I take myself to be the one with emotions, the intellect, and also this intellect is also, second function is the decision maker. And here is what experiencer or enjoyer. So that means because I take myself to be one or all three, this is why I miss the nature of myself. Is it clear? Now, what then is talked about is how do you become a doer? This, or an enjoyer. So what he says is, he zooms in further and he explains how do you become a doer. You become a doer because there is a vritti. I know this, I do this. In this vritti, we take it as only one vritti and our identity. But in this vritti, there is a form, that vritti, and the content. So what happens is, we don't see it as two. There are no real two. There is what Satya Mithya relationship. But we see it only as vritti, and we take vritti as a reality, that form as a reality. And therefore we miss the content. And therefore, what it says is, wherever there is a doer and wherever there is an enjoyer, there is what the form, and then there is a content. And what is that content? Brahman. So this is what it shows us. Okay. So now, now you have then told that you are none of this, but you are this. So what does it? How does it express it? It says that actually all these 6 vikaras, it's born, it's declining, it is undergoing metamorphosis. They are there. Nobody is denying that it is not there, but it belongs to Stula Sharira. Because it belongs to Stula Sharira, it is not an attribute of Atma. Okay? Then it says all the different conditions of the mind, they are there, but they belong to the mind, they don't belong to Atma. Right? All the different conditions of the senses belong to the senses, but they don't belong to Atma. So that means now, so what is the relationship? Then one thing is, what the example is given is that of a pot which has light and then it has holes. So the real light is only one, but it appears through different holes. So you start thinking that there are holes and one is separate from the other. So what it shows is that actually all of them do their function because of the presence of this Atma, but we don't see the nature of Atma, we see it through its various functions. Functions of the body, functions of the mind, functions of the senses, and this is why it covers the nature of Atma. Okay. Then the last verse that we saw, it then describes the nature of Atma. Suppose you begin to understand that, okay, I am none of this and this actually belongs to all the vikara, then you say Atma itself is, attributes belong here, itself is attribute free. All the modifications belong here, it is modification free. Itself is ever pure. Ever pure means, here when you say pure, what does it mean? It is an attribute, because the pure can become dirty. Right? But here when you say pure, it doesn't become, it's not pure as an attribute, because anything which is an attribute can undergo a change and it can become something else. So here what we mean by it doesn't take on any attributes, it doesn't modify itself, it is something which is totally free. Okay? Now, then finally, we also saw one more word was used, and that is, it is Nitya. What does Nitya mean? Nitya means that not only this, what is the relationship? Now, okay, one more thing was shown. What is the relationship between Brahman and everything else, which is subsequent? Satya Mithya relationship. So what does it mean that at every level, suppose you say forms cannot exist without knowledge and power, but knowledge and power can exist without being a form. Knowledge and power cannot exist without awareness, but awareness can be is independent of knowledge and form. So this is a sequence, this is what we call Satya Mithya relationship. Okay? So now this being the Satyam, it is not only truth of all the objects, it is also the truth of time and space. So this is what we have done so far. There is a whole, it's very creative in different ways in which different texts move to show you the reality. So suppose you are explaining the reality, there are so many different ways. So what Taittiriya Upanishad starts with Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. It doesn't start here, it starts here. Then Chandogya Upanishad, Vacharambhanam Vikaro Namadheyam Vrittika Ityeva Satyam. Where does it start? It starts by saying that actually all this is mithya, there is one Satyam here. Then Ishavasya Upanishad, where does it start? It starts with Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam. Do you understand? The starting points are all different. This is where you see, oh my God, what knowledge is this? No matter where you start, no matter where you go, you end up with this vision, and that vision is so intricate and is embellished further and further. You understand the interconnections, you understand how one thing is connected to the other through this intricate, sophisticated inquiry and prakriyas. Then there was one final methodology which was shown by saying, how does pramana work? How does pramana work is, not only it has to neti, not only it has to negate, because you mistake yourself to be all of this, so not only it has to negate all of this, neti, na iti, but it also then has to show you this. So that is done through Mahavakya. Mahavakya means those vakyas which directly reveal the nature of life. So that means when you are studying the text, what happens is our knowledge is all scattered. We don't put it together. We don't spend time to put it together. So it seems like, yeah, how come one class is this and one class is this? It's building one whole story. In this whole story, it is your job. I try to tell you what it is talking on, but if you see, the thing is, I tell you it's one or two sentences, so the mind is not paying attention. So then what seems is we miss connections. When we miss connections, it seems like it's all scattered. So this is why when you summarize, you have to try to find the critical links. Otherwise it's all scattered. You just say something, it doesn't mean anything, actually, really speaking. You need to find out what you're talking about. And how is it linked to what I'm trying to say? Then only it is a good summary. Otherwise, it's just kind of partially taking one thing and then it's okay. Every class you can't show the whole picture. It's not. But in your mind, when you go and you revise, you have to put the pieces together. Because it's showing the whole. And you can't show the whole without showing each part. So that means when you study each part and then you study the other part, your mind is, okay, this part, how is it connected to that part? It seems scattered. The teacher gives you connections, but what happens is we miss those connections. So then what happens? We gather a lot of information and we get confused what is related to what and why we are saying what we are saying. So, whether you do it in the classroom or not, I just wanted to give you a method of how to use this teaching systematically. And because it's showing the whole. But as Swamiji was saying yesterday, you can't arrive at the whole without each part, looking into each part. But when you look at each part, it's connected to whole. So you have to start putting in its right place. You don't have to take each part just independently. So this is whole method of Advaita. Method of Advaita is sophisticated. That's why the mind has to learn to be sophisticated. Okay, so just wanted to give you a glimpse of how your mind has to work with all these verses. Huh?
Very good.
Yeah.
Too good.
Okay. Okay, 36, no? 36, okay. Now.
Not true.
35? Okay, sorry, 35, you are right. Okay. Aham akashavat sarvam bahir antargataha achyutaha sada sarva samaha shuddhaha nisangaha nirmalaha achalaha. Okay. Who wants to read the translation? Yeah, Shona.
Like space, I pervade everything, both within and without. I never lose my nature. I am always the same in all, free from ignorance, free in relationships, free from impurity, and free from all movements.
Okay. Now, this verse, when we look at it, how do we have to see it? It is actually showing again the nature of Atma. And it is showing Atma as like space which pervades everything which is within and without. But what is the relationship between space and Atma? So that means there is a relationship. So what is this? It is called Kaumitika Nyaya. What does it mean is, if space pervades everything, this is what Surya was trying to do in meditation. Space pervades everything that is there. The universe is defined as that which is exists within time and space. And awareness, being the truth of space, it is what? Huh? Huh?
It is not within, it is that because of which space exists.
Exactly. It is that because of which the space exists. So space depends upon Atma for its existence. What are we talking about here? We are talking about here. Right? You have to put which this verse is talking about what. You have to figure out in this whole framework. Otherwise you don't know what we are talking about. Right? So what is this verse talking about? This final reality. It says that just as space pervades everything, this being the very truth of space, it naturally pervades everything. Now, what you also need to provide is, when the universe is manifest, what happens to space? Time, space, object, what happens? It is in unmanifest potential form. So that means the form, everything here is what? Objects. Objects can become unmanifest. Space in which objects exist itself can become unmanifest. But awareness remains. Awareness is never affected by anything. The form, time, space and object universe constantly undergoes change. While there is a universe, space is the most pervasive. And being the truth of space, it is everywhere. But when the time, space and object becomes unmanifest, space is no longer, because it is in potential form. But what happens to awareness? It is still as it is. It doesn't become unmanifest. What becomes unmanifest is Jagat. all knowledge and all power also, right? All power, all knowledge and all power is manifest in form of the universe, then it becomes unmanifest. So this is what we call Maya. Right? Knowledge and power remains. That's why it is the cause of the creation. It has to precede the creation. So knowledge and power becomes unmanifest, but awareness always is. It is a non-changing reality of everything. Okay? So this verse further explains to you, through this example of space, relationship between space and awareness. Okay. 36. It's all talking about this reality. It says, Nitya Shuddha Vimuktaikam Akhanda Anandam Avyayam Satyam Jnanam Anantam Yat Param Brahma Aham Evatata. It's basically as a result of using all these prakriyas, what you arrive at and what is the nature of this Atma. There are few verses which are explaining that. Okay, so who wants to read the translation? Mrina.
Ever pure, ever free and ever one, undivided Ananda, non-dual, unchanging. I am verily that absolute Brahman, which is existence, knowledge and infinite.
Okay, so that we have seen everything is divided in space. Space pervades everything, and awareness being the truth of space, it pervades everything. The whole morning meditation was about, Surya was showing how everything is pervaded by awareness. So one easiest way is to, how do you see that? You see that all the objects are pervaded by space, and awareness being truth of space. And what is the relationship between space and awareness? Satya Mithya relationship. So what is that relationship? Space cannot exist without awareness. Awareness exists without being a space. Awareness pervading whole of space is free from the attributes of space. That is the relationship. Okay. So this is where now here I want to. So it's not divided by anything. Satyam. What is the word Satyam? Satyam in a common parlance, it means that which is existence. So we need to see that also Surya has done. Now, what are these verses doing? Focusing on this point. After having done all these different prakriyas, he is now reiterating in so many different ways what is the nature of this Brahman, so that you don't continue to make this mistake. What will I feel like when I know? So that means you are still here, and being this, you want to become this. Impossible. So our teacher used to say, the seed retaining its seedness cannot become tree. You want to remain this, but you want to know Brahman. Then it becomes what? An object. So all your questions, how will I feel, what it will be like, it's all with reference to your limit, and then you want to know Brahman as something. So that's not. The very person has to go away. This is what Swamiji was also saying. That person recognizes one's own mithyatva. In every other knowledge, the knower retains its reality and knows things. In this knowledge, the knower itself understands its own truth. There is a knower of a given thing, which is here, Vijnanamaya, doer, knower. But in that knower, there is a content of the knower, which is free from being a knower. So that means the knower itself understands its own mithyatva. Because it understands its own mithya, he or she understands its mithyatva, therefore one moves, shifts the paradigm. Otherwise you retain this identity. And retaining this identity, you want to be this, not possible. Huh? Conflicting. Exactly. So this is why yesterday Swamiji was saying, retaining this, we want this. It's not possible. So you have to use pramana to actually take your buddhi to this reality. And when that process is over, it is called buddhi. That your buddhi understands what Shastra is saying completely and totally without any false attributions. Okay? So, now, one thing which is used, which I want to talk about in this verse, this particular verse, because many other things we have seen. Where is the thing? Okay, Akhanda Ananda Rupa. This is yet another place where there are lots of mistakes made. This Akhanda Ananda means uninterrupted happiness. If you convert, if you translate literally, right? Okay. Where is it? Okay. So now, when you translate Akhanda Ananda, literally it means the happiness which is uninterrupted.
Undivided or uninterrupted?
Undivided, uninterrupted. Akhanda means undivided, uninterrupted. So what it means then, what we think then is, once the knowledge takes place, there will be some kind of a bliss, and that bliss will never go away. This is a very common, so that means that is again wanting to be in some state of mind, which is uninterrupted. So you are always in one state of mind. So this is, can this be? Can you tell me? Where does, first of all, happiness, where is the locus of happiness?
Mind.
And the mind, by its nature, is
Limited.
not only it is limited, but it is also changing. This is how it is designed. So what will happen is, this is what even Swamiji was saying, it was nice, I liked the way he was expressing. He says, we want this, we want to create this happiness which is uninterrupted, undivided at the level of mind. And that is what he said is impossible. You remember what he was saying? So he was saying, it is impossible to do this. So after listening to Shastra, we still continue to do this. This is the buddhi. It doesn't use pramana efficiently. So you still want what? An uninterrupted, undivided happiness. And the only place all of this can take place is in the mind. So what are we then talking about when we are talking about this? So therefore, Atma doesn't have the attribute. What is the second problem? If you give it an attribute of happiness, the opposite, which is sadness, has to have some other cause. You understand? So many logical problems you get into when you give wrong attributions. So that means the sadness, because Brahman inheres everything, and if its nature is happiness, everything has to be happiness. But as he was explaining, what is our experience? Dukha, 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 sukha. Dukha, 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 sukha. So that means if this was really sticking to nature of Brahman, and if Brahman is everywhere, we should be anyway experiencing happiness everywhere. But that's not our experience. So therefore, Brahman in itself is neither happiness nor sadness. It is the presence which makes both possible. Like, go back to Ghata example. There is awareness in whose presence, what? Two outlets. One is happiness, the other one is sadness. So what you see is happiness and sadness. They belong to the Ghata. They don't belong to the light. So this is what. So this doesn't belong. The happiness does not belong to Atma. Otherwise, again you will make Atma with attributes. Attributes means limited because it's different from other attribute. It cannot be cause of everything. Do you understand? One little mistake in handling Shastra and you go totally off track. And unfortunately or fortunately, most of the people don't realize it. So you can get away with anything that you say. Atma is bliss. Oh yeah, that's true. Let's go for bliss now. Oh, when will I feel the bliss? You're waiting for bliss. So everybody gets carried away. Nobody, actually, that's why you need a competent guru's place in this Shastra is critical. Mind's nature is such, it will start imagining things. And the guru's job is to bring you back to reality.
Is it fair to say?
So, yeah, go ahead.
Is it fair to
You
say
want to
then-
try? Yes, yeah, try. Yeah. Yes.
Then Atma is emotionless. Is that then the conclusion?
Exactly, because emotions, Atma is emotionless. Why? Because what is the locus of emotion?
You can't be happy or sad, and therefore you're emotionless.
Excellent. Right? But what is the locus of emotion?
Mind.
Excellent. Right? This is what we call clarity. We are not trying to negate emotion, pretend we don't have emotion. We understand the place where emotions take place and then free Atma from the emotions. Huh? So this is the good. Now, why then, again and again, many Shruti, they talk about Ananda Swarupa. Why do we do that? Why is it used so often? It is used not to confuse you, but with reference to your Purushartha Nishchaya. What are you looking for? What he was saying, you are looking for happiness, right? Nobody is looking for sadness, nobody is looking for jealousy, everybody is looking for happiness. So that means we start Vedanta pursuit by saying, so what, as Sita Devi was saying, right? We want to experience. Anandamaya is an experiencer. It does things to experience what? Happiness. This is the main, this is what he, yesterday Swamiji was talking about as your basic urge. This is how everybody is. Everybody wants to engage in the world for happiness. Nobody wants to engage in the world just like that, or getting sadness or getting whatever. So that means this is your basic urge. So now we are trying to see how do you satisfy this basic urge. So what we said is you satisfy by knowing the nature of truth, but how is it related to your happiness? That you need to understand. So in order to do that, we need to, even though this happiness experience belongs to the mind, we need to little bit look into what produces happiness in the mind, right? What produces? So it seems as though, so what he was talking about, what? Suppose you like mangoes, suppose, right? And you come to India during mango season. Then you have one mango. So then it gives you certain happiness. So what is our conclusion? Our conclusion is what? What is the source of that happiness? Mango. This is our conclusion. The fact is, it's true. In the presence of mango and eating the mango, it gave me happiness. This is a fact. This is true. But now we are trying to find out what actually gave me happiness. Right? So now, if mango is a source of happiness, my life is very easy. Because I have to surround myself with mangoes. My life is happy. Right? Nowadays with technology, it's very easy. You freeze things. and you have mangoes. So now you found solution to your search for happiness. Mangoes. Right? But it doesn't happen like that. So that means mango cannot be the source of your happiness. Why not first? If mango was the source of happiness, everybody will have mangoes. You will find many people who say, oh, I don't like mangoes at all, I prefer chickus. Right? So that means, or I prefer durian, or whatever. So that means you cannot attribute happiness to mango because different people may like different fruit. So therefore, intrinsically, mango is not capable of providing you happiness. Secondly, if you yourself loved mango, I give you one, you really enjoy. The second one, the third, enough. Even if I give you the fourth, you will say, no, thank you. What does it mean? As you consume it, what? You yourself feel, now that's enough, I can't take it anymore. So at one point, this is what we call in economics,
Marginal returns.
Like for every additional piece, your pleasure that you derive from it declines, right? So this is what we say. So that means it cannot then be so. At one point, you don't even want it, right? So therefore, this cannot be the source. The third is, you still are yet to have one mango, and then you still love it. But suppose you get the news, there is tsunami. Then what happens, there is tsunami out there, and suppose in Japan, right? And you have some relatives in Japan. What will happen? Your mind has lost its capacity to enjoy. Because now it is, so you are there, you will still love the mango, but now the mango is right in front of you, but now lost it. So therefore, you cannot, for all the three reasons, you cannot attribute, you can't deny the experience of happiness, but you can't attribute it to mango. But then you still have to account for what gave you that happiness. So now you can say there is only one more thing, which is what? Me. Because there are two things in enjoyment, right? I and the object. If you are already happy, you don't need mango. So this is magic. Neither you can attribute happiness to you, because you are constantly searching for happiness, nor you can attribute happiness to any object. Mango stands for one object, but any object. At the same time, you have the experience of happiness. Where is it coming from?
From the mind. Your thinking process is like, I think I love this mango, and it produced emotions.
If the mind, then what? The mind should always be what? Happy. Neither the mind, because mind is changing, the objects are changing. And at the same time, what, as Swamiji is saying, dukkha, 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 sukha. I just told you, even when there is a mango, if you hear this thing of tsunami, that the happiness goes completely. So it's not the mind. Mind is not. So that means there is something which is happening. Neither you can attribute it to I, nor you can attribute it to objects, and still you have to account for the experience of happiness. What? This is experience is a result of, for the time being, what has happened is, mango, for the time being, it was sought by you. And who were you? The seeker. When the seeker and the sought come together, it becomes the whole. There is no longer division. Undivided, as we say. There is no longer any division. So therefore, that produces the experience of happiness. In the wholeness, there is an experience of happiness. But this happiness goes, why? Because the seeker you, as I told you, what after second is no longer a seeker. The sought itself is what? Changing. Today you have mango season goes, then you don't have mango anymore. Then some other things come. You not only want mango, you want promotion, you want your son to go to a good school. So that means the sought has come not with reference to mango but with reference to something else. And then again there is a division, seeker-sought division. So whole life goes in catching moments of happiness. What we are trying to do is get the seeker and sought together. And we do get it at times, but the way the universe is designed, it's impossible to keep this experience. Why? Because you are designed in a way that you, the seeker, keeps changing. You have multiple desires, not just one. And the objects themselves are changing. You have it, there is no guarantee you will have it tomorrow. You have it, you lose value for it. You loved it, you don't love it now. So that means in a constantly flux, what happens? The seeker is changing all the time. The sought is changing all the time. Coming together produces the experience of happiness. And through this changing world, we keep trying to reproduce these experiences. This is why the change, they come together, there is happiness. But again, by nature, they change. So, when will you end this process? It's impossible because you are caught in a changing world. You can't, neither you can hold seeker constant, nor you can hold sought constant. And even if you hold seeker and sought constant, the seeker himself can have so many other. There's not one thing that we seek. There are multiple things that we seek, right? So this is why you can't say, let God decide what I want. Hey God, you're a complex human being. You want so many things. Right? You want to do well in school. You want to have good friends. You want to have good relationships. You want to do so many things. You want to do well in your profession. So that means it's multiple. It's not one. And all are changing and you are changing and you are trying to put them together. So this is what we call experiential happiness, which is an outcome of seeker and sought, which are constantly changing, coming together. Through this knowledge, what are you doing? Where is the seeker? What is the relationship? Suppose you understand, I am Brahman and everything else is mithya. It depends upon me. You have shifted your identity from this little entity to Brahman. So now, where is the seeker-sought relationship? There is only one. There is no second. So that means this seeker and sought division that we live with is resolved once and for all. This is why we call it Akhanda Akara Swarupa. There is no distance between you and anything else in this universe. What is the relationship? You being Satyam, you pervade everything. Everything else being Mithya, they depend upon you for its existence. Where is the real seeker and where is the real sought? Through knowledge, you resolve the seeker and sought division once and for all. This is why we call it Ananda Swarupa. It doesn't mean that at the level of mind there will be always Ananda. You understand? So that means the problem is solved. Because through that mind experience, what actually gives us happiness is some experience resolves the seeker and sought for the time being. And here, through knowledge, we resolve it once and for all. That doesn't mean that the mind will always be. Don't produce everything that I talk about Atma at the level of mind. Mind will have its own still needs and whatever, and then it will continue to engage, but you know exactly what is taking place where. Even if you transact with the world, there is no real division. If the transaction of the world becomes a cause for division, where is Advaita? There is no Advaita. So that's why actually you can transact with the world very freely, because it doesn't threaten your Advaita, non-duality. Nothing that happens in this world can what? Change the fact that there is seeker and sought is always one. Do you understand? So this is what we call Ananda Swarupa.
Okay, can I put it a little bit differently?
Yes.
What I said in meditation. See, if you understand that you are the truth of both the seeker and the sought, or all the different things that you are seeking, you yourself as a seeker and all the different objects of seeking, then what is happening is that there is fullness, but it's not an experiential fullness. In this Atma, in this Brahman, in yourself, there is fullness. Where is the lack? Where is the lack? Where is it that you will be urged within Brahman? I'm speaking at that level. Okay? That you will feel that, oh, I miss this, I feel that inadequate, incomplete, I need this to feel happy. At that level, there is no lack. There is already fullness, which is your reality. So that doesn't mean that even if you know that at the level of an individual, okay, this form which is limited will engage in things and try to fulfill its desire and so on. That is okay, that's fine. But what Neema was saying, now it's not with the same desperate attempt, like Swamiji also was saying, to try to get this ananda, this fullness, through limited, changing objects in life. Right? So this is the idea.
Yes.
Basic question.
Yes.
So I think of late what we're trying to see is, there are a lot of enzymes like dopamine and others in the brain which regulates emotions, happiness and others. And we're just trying to sort of play around with that.
Absolutely.
So how does that sort of come in? Because then we're artificially inducing a sense of happiness.
Yeah. See, then what happens is that then you begin to be drug dependent. Then you are drug dependent, then when the drugs themselves will have side effects. So that means what you are trying to do is, the mind, we are trying to recreate this permanent happiness in the mind, and in fact it's impossible. So dependency means now it's like almost, you take drugs or anything, it creates an artificial high. Then what happens without it? It's not a natural condition of the mind. So without it now, then in fact you experience a deeper dip. Then now you want it. Now then it has its own side effects. It will dull your brain. So this is why even a psychiatrist, as much as possible, they will not give, I think, unless it is really necessary, they will not do that, right? Resorting to, this is just artificial manipulation of the mind. So that is actually not going to take you very far.
It's not just drugs, even exercise. There are so many activities which are prescribed these days for that dopamine high or whatever. But in every case, if we say it in these terms, the sort is changing.
Absolutely.
Today it is X, tomorrow it is Y.
Absolutely.
But it's that temporary.
It's a temporary high. And you have so many sort, right? So you've just created an artificial high through chemical, but those sorts haven't disappeared, and your distance with the sort has also not really disappeared. So then when that effect of that drug goes, that becomes even more glaring for you. Yeah. I need to move on, really, sorry. You can ask me questions in the satsang. Is it okay? Okay. Evam nirantara abhyastha brahma eva asmi iti vasana harati avidya vikshepan rogan eva rasayana. Sarita.
Thus the constant, continuous contemplation of the fact I am Brahman destroys ignorance and habitual reactions, just as medicine destroys diseases.
Okay. Now, this is one thing, when you are listening to Shastra, there are three processes that are going on. What are the three processes going on? There is, the first thing is Shravana. What does Shravana mean? Not listening. Please don't tell me listening. Shravanam is a technical term. What does Shravanam mean?
Sound.
It means, sorry?
Sound or something.
No. Shravanam means Tatparya Nishchaya. Sounds difficult. Don't worry. Shravanam literally means listening. But suppose you are listening, right? And somebody in the name of Vedanta is showing you all kind of, experience bliss, Brahman, and do it. So you're listening and you're listening and you're listening. What is it doing to you?
Unable to understand.
You're not able to understand it, right? Because in fact, not only you're not able to understand it, it actually gives you wrong notions about what you're actually looking for. So therefore, just listening cannot be the meaning of Shravana. So, what is the meaning? What is the added meaning? It is what we call Tatparya Nishchaya. Whenever you read a text, your whole commitment is not to kind of what, you already have some pre-notions and you want the text to tell you or to confirm your notions. That is not called learning. When you look into the text, you have to keep aside your notions and you have to try to understand what the text is saying. This is what we call Tatparya Nishchaya. When Vedanta is using the pramana, what is pramana talking about? Right? Is it talking about I am part of Ishvara? Is it talking about I am Ishvara? Is it talking about me being part of the universe? Do I need to detach from the world, or I need to, what do I need to do? What is Shastra talking about? Because if you haven't figured out what Shastra is talking about, and you yourself go on imputing what Shastra is saying and start following what you think, what will happen? You will be flawed. Flawed means big time flawed. So this is why in studying anything, so that's why they ask you, right? All the time they ask you. You're teaching Upanishads, you're teaching Bhagavad Gita, whose interpretation? It's not anybody's interpretation. Pramana means you can't interfere, as he was saying. The minute you interfere, what happens? You will distort it. So therefore, Shravanam is a technical term. You have to spend a lot of time trying to, it's not your wishful thinking. It's not like what you want to see. It has a certain message and certain vision, and you have to
Decipher that.
Exactly, decipher that. Exactly. So this is what we call Tatparya Nishchaya. Now, suppose you understood that Vedanta is not talking about you being part of Ishvara, but you and Ishvara being really one. Then it doesn't actually, and when the teacher uses the methodology, even though the teacher is highly competent, it doesn't mean that you'll get everything. Doubts will arise. Because what Shastra says is so different from what we think about life. You think you are limited, Shastra shows you are limitless. You don't know whether there is Ishvara or not, Shastra shows it is everywhere. You think Ishvara is some higher entity, Shastra shows you and Ishvara are one. So that means you can't move from your vision to Shastra's vision just listening like that without any doubts. Doubts are integral part, right? Doubts will arise. And clearing this doubt is called manana. Now, what kind of doubts? And this is why, even though it's hard for me to, I love questions, but I also have time constraint. So I'm struggling between, because if you keep listening to me, it sounds wonderful because it sounds in order, it sounds, clear. But unless you clear your doubts, what will happen is, upon what I am saying, you will superimpose your things. And if you superimpose your things, you will actually never get to what I am saying. So this is why, even though discussions or asking questions seem like a disturbance, seem like a deviation, actually, it is necessary. It is necessary because you have to remove your doubts in order to get to what I'm saying. And it doesn't happen automatically. So this is why, but at the same time we all work within time constraint. So that is, but ultimately, if not this time, next time, doubts have to be clarified. Otherwise what will happen? A doubt which is, you are not clear, and on that you are building what I am saying. You built a very different picture very quickly than what I am talking about. So that means, now doubts. Doubts of whom? Your own doubts. Not only your own doubts, doubts of others. Sometimes you didn't think about it, but when somebody else asks that question, it helps. You said, yeah, that's true, I don't know the answer to that. But you didn't have question initially. So that means doubts of others. And you can have doubts of philosophers. What does it mean? As I told you yesterday, just one example, then I will move on. One example. Yesterday I said Shastra is using one prakriya called na iti na iti. Not body, not mind, not senses, not this karma. You are, and suppose Shastra, and you leave it there. You said, oh, that's what Shastra is doing, telling me who I am not, and then I will emerge. What will happen is, you will conclude there is nothing. There is a school like that, Shunyavadi. So that means, and he is committed to that. It's not just any one person's doubt, it's a school of thought, it's a philosophy, it is being taught, it is being practiced. So that means, these are what we call people who are not just normal individuals, they have created systems of thinking. So, inbuilt in the prakriya of Vedanta, right? So not only the teacher resolves your doubt and the people's doubt, but the teacher also addresses all the other philosophies who don't subscribe to this vision. You have to show how do you show that what we are saying is right and what they are saying is flawed? Only through reason. Reason is the only way. If it is not the truth, you will not be able to hold it logically. That's all. This is why we don't have any personal fights. It's not like you're right, I'm right. It's not like any fight. The only thing is, if it is the truth, it cannot be contradicted by logic. This is why Adi Shankaracharya had debates on banks of Ganga in Varanasi. And all the great Pandits used to go and debate with him. And he emerged as a winner, whether they were Buddhist or Purva Mimamsakas or whoever. How did he emerge as a winner? Through reasoning. They could not contradict what he was saying, but he was able to contradict what they were saying. And they could see it. They are scholars. They are not, even though initially they are committed to that vision, they also are thinkers. So there is a beautiful story about Adi Shankaracharya. So he had a big debate with Mandana Mishra. And Mandana Mishra was the Purva Mimamsaka. Purva Mimamsaka means Now, this is what we call Tatparinishchaya. He also looked into the Vedas, but he thought the Vedas were talking about going to heaven. And for going to heaven, we have to do a lot of punya. That is the final goal of a human life. And what is the Adi Shankaracharya, which is the intention of the Shruti? Heaven is also a place. There also you go as an entity as a result of your karma. When your karma get exhausted, you have to come back. So this is not the final goal. Moksha is the final goal, which is freedom from being this entity who keeps traveling from one place to the other. Now, debates. Banks of Ganga. Who's the judge? The judge is Mandan Mishra's wife.
And she's a scholar.
And she herself is a scholar. And the debate is, and then what is the thing? So Adi Shankaracharya was a sannyasi. And this person obviously is a wife, he has a wife, so he is a grihastha. And therefore, what is the thing? When you win the argument, what will happen? So he tells Adi Shankaracharya that if you win the argument, I will come with you. What does it mean? His wife is, now he is leaving his wife and going and studying with him. Right? So now, wife is not only a judge, but she also has a big stake. She doesn't want to lose her husband.
I said she may want him to go.
Yeah, so that is a possibility. Right? So the debates take place. And debates go on for days. Because they are all sophisticated people. They have whatever they say, they back it with reasoning, they quote from the Shruti, so this debate goes on. And ultimately, who wins? Adi Shankaracharya. And who declares him a winner? His wife, Mandan Mishra's wife. This is the integrity. What is at the center is the teaching, it is the learning. How do you establish who is right? Not by fighting. My God is better than yours. My thinking is better. And just reasoning. If you have the truth with you, nobody can contradict it. But if you don't have the truth with you, somebody will be able to see the flaws. This is how it is. So, this is what we call mananam process. Mananam means you have to reason it out. Your knowledge, a lot of people tell me, oh, I know it till somebody asks me a question. The minute somebody asks me a question, I'm like scratching my head. That means, please don't say I know it, because that's highly inaccurate, please. Because what will happen is, what you don't know, if it seems like you know it, what will happen? You will not make an effort to know it further. So therefore, we have to be very clear about the language we use. So this is why we had added what? Process of knowing. Process of knowing means, I'm in the process of knowing. Please don't also say, I don't know, because you have heard, you have, gathered some information, you have processed it in some way. So neither you can say I don't know it, nor you can say you know it. So what do you have to say? I'm in the process of growing clarity. Okay? So this is, and a part of it is exposing yourself to doubts and your ability to answer it logically. The third process is what we call nididhyasana. This is slightly different. This is what we call contemplation. Nididhyasana. What is nididhyasana? What we do in morning meditation.
At the end.
At the end. Yeah. So at the end, what he does is, so we saw, when I explained to you dhyana, what did I say? Dhyana is Saguna Brahma Vishaya Manasa Vyapara. It's thinking of bringing Ishvara in your life and healing yourself and changing your orientation towards the world. But that's only yet, it's just actually getting your mind to then dwell on what Shastra is talking about. So here, after doing the japa and seeing the meaning and healing yourself and establishing a relationship with Ishvara, now you're ready to contemplate on what Shastra is talking about. So that process is not called jnana, it is called nididhyasana. Why? Because here pramana decides what is the relationship. You no longer decide. How did we distinguish between knowledge and action? Action is Purusha Tattva. It is centered on person's free will. Knowledge is Vastu Tattva. It is centered on what is. The minute your mind is dwelling on what is, it's no longer called action. It's called nididhyasana. You are contemplating on the words of Shastra. And that meanings, when as you contemplate, you begin to what? Try to understand them as they are. You want them to create right meanings for you. You want to assimilate them properly. So this is what we call nididhyasana. So what does it mean? In your own mind, you can take one given idea that is in the class, and then you can dwell on it. And you can look upon it from different ways and make it your own. This is very, very important to assimilate the knowledge. Yesterday Swamiji was saying it's not an intellectual information. It's not like the mind remains and tries to collect a lot of information. You have to be, because it's talking about your nature. So that means it has to become your vision of yourself. This is who I am. Till then, knowledge is not complete. Don't think it is complete. That is me. That means the knowledge that is now is completely transferred from the books and the teacher to you. The process of transfer is complete. Now what happens? You can become the teacher and you can go and teach somebody else because you hold the entire vision as it is meant to be. So this is the thing of contemplation, nididhyasana. Nididhyasana means the knowledge can't remain as you know physics. You retain yourself and you know something. This is not that knowledge. The knowledge is about you. So that means you have to recognize this is me. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma is me. Not, oh yeah, I understand, then what will happen? It's not knowledge. Right? So, this is what these verses are talking about nididhyasana.
Next three verses.
Next three verses. So, I will do them quickly. Okay. Evam nirantara abhyastha brahma iva asmi iti vasana harati avidya vikshepa rogan iva rasayana. Okay. So, continuous contemplation and the fact that I am Brahman, it destroys the ignorance and habitual ways of thinking, just as medicine destroys diseases. So you saw what is the purpose of meditation? Let's go to the next one. Vivikta desha asinaha viragaha vijitendriyaha bhavayet ekam atmanam tam anantam ananyatihi. Who wants to read this? Aparna.
Sitting in a quiet place, freeing the mind from attachment, mastering the senses, one should meditate upon the self without a second, that limitless being, without thinking about anything else.
This is very nice because, as I said, there are some precondition to contemplation. What is a precondition to contemplation? A clear, absorbed mind. no matter how much you want to contemplate. But if your mind keeps going into, what is the breakfast, and oh, my kids are waiting at home, and it's all over the place, or it is captured by its own resentment or anger or whatever, it is unable to meditate. Why? Because it's still not ready. It is too preoccupied with so many other things. So that means you have to do small things. What does it mean? Small things are so big that the big things are missed out. Right? They are looming large in your mind. When they are looming large in your mind, they occupy your mind. Then there is no place for contemplation. So this is why what we saw the first verse. What was the first verse was saying? Tapo bihi shila papana. He is reminding you. What will enable you to contemplate? You need a certain inner leisure in order to contemplate. So this is what somebody who has mastery over one's indriyas. You're not carrying the load of the whole world in your head.
Shantanam Vitaragina.
Yeah, exactly. Or the desires and the likes and dislikes are not totally occupying your mind. You have a certain mastery. So this is what here in this verse, how does he express it? Certain mastery over indriyas. How does he explain otherwise? Yeah, mastering over the senses, freeing the mind from attachment doesn't mean that you have to be detached from the world. What it means is freeing the mind from its wrong attributions. Why do objects hold you? Not because they have the power to hold you. They are just what they are. It's your perception of them which holds you to them. So that's why we don't have to do anything with objects. We don't need to be afraid of objects and stay away from them. We have to change our relationship. Right? I'm attached to that because I give a wrong value to that thing. Then my mind is totally preoccupied. But when I see it as it is, I don't need to say it's not important. It has its own place, the right place. When you give everything its right place, then nothing is a problem. Everything is matter of celebration. Right? So this is what we say, that there is a certain mastery, that the mind has given right importance to, right place to everything, and then the mind is quiet, tranquil, and that kind of a mind can actually contemplate on this. Next. As a result of contemplation, what is going to happen? Atmani eva akhilam drishyam pravilapya dhiyasudihi bhavayet ekam atmanam nirmala akashavat sada. Who wants to? Rudra.
May the wise one with understanding contemplate upon himself as one, resolving the entire world of perception in one's own self, like space which is free from everything always.
Okay. So now, there are, it's beautiful what my teacher used to say. There are two, you can use, contemplation is your creative time. So you can do so many things with your own mind, just as different Upanishads express the same vision in so many different ways, with so many different prakriyas, and your mind is like, wow, how is it that the mind is able to actually, and impeccable logic every time. Not that, well, here the logic falters and here it is good. Impeccable logic in every prakriya. Now, you can use the same. Your mind is also given the capacity. So therefore, there was one way that I still remember very well, that Swamiji used to first say that get your mind to think about this reality. So one day you can think about Ishvara in your own way, right? It's not like you have to always, you can't deviate from Shastra in its vision, but you can put it in your own words. One day you can think about Atma. One day you can think about Jagat. One day you can think about relationship between Atma and Jagat. All these different and within this you can do so many different things, right? One day Ishwar and Jagat. Then Ishwar and Atma. All of this. So that means when the mind goes to something else, you bring it and you make it contemplate on all these things. This is what are you doing? Shastra is giving you this knowledge, and what you are trying to do is to bring this knowledge to your mind without adding or subtracting. Trying to understand and assimilate this properly. Okay. Then one day he was saying, so first it seems like I have to take it away from everything and get it to think like this. Then he says, one day you can tell yourself, let my mind go anywhere. Wherever it goes, can it be outside Ishvara? This is what Surya does. Right? So that means first you are saying, I am withdrawing from the world and thinking about Ishvara. Later on you are saying, wherever my mind goes, it cannot be outside Ishvara. Turn it around. This is what we call human creativity. Human creativity means you can actually, otherwise what happens? We are linear. Then somebody presents it in some other way, then you are lost. But why did you say here like that? That means things are not put together properly. So this is what, there is a thing of some fakir. Now that is a nice thing, right? One fakir was lying down in a temple, and his feet were facing the deity. Okay, so the priest comes and the priest says, you know what? Generally, you don't show the feet to the deity, and it's true. It's true that you can't be disrespectful. So, but we are talking from the standpoint of fakir. We are not talking from the standpoint of a normal person who just does everything without any awareness. We are not talking. Please don't compare the two, right? Fakir is a wise person. Let's say a wise person. Fakir is a wise person. In this case, every fakir may not be a wise person, but in this case, the wise is a wise person. Right? So now this the wise person tells the priest, okay, you move my feet where Ishvara is not. But if you do it prematurely, then it is disrespectful. Then you are preempting. This is what I say. When you have listened to Shastra, don't pretend you are Brahman. Tell yourself, I am in the process of knowing. Everything you take from as though you are already Brahman. Then there is nothing to do, there is nothing to achieve, there is nothing. But the mind will not settle, because the mind knows very well, I haven't really understood. It's all superficial words. This is when you have to, everything is Ishvara, everything is Brahman. Not needed. Outside the class, behave normally. You don't need to impress people with these words. You don't need to impress yourself with all these words. The words have very profound meanings. If you understand the meaning and if you can contain the meaning, you are wise. So, these are what we call the Vidyasanam verses. In the next, we will see in the next verse. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.